Hello everyone, and welcome to our channel. Today, we are going to explore an exciting and highly effective language learning strategy that can help you improve your English listening skills faster than traditional methods. If you have ever struggled to understand native speakers, felt lost during conversations, or found it difficult to remember new vocabulary, this video is exactly what you need. We will focus on a simple yet powerful approach, combining listening and reading. This strategy is based on the idea that by engaging both your auditory and visual senses, you can reinforce your understanding of the language in multiple ways. When you listen to spoken English while simultaneously reading the text, your brain connects the sounds of words with their written forms. This dual exposure helps you recognize vocabulary more easily, understand sentence structures, and improve your overall comprehension. In this video, we will discuss not only the benefits of combining listening and reading but also practical tips on how to apply this method in your daily language learning routine. Whether you are a beginner trying to get familiar with common words and phrases, or an intermediate learner aiming to boost your listening comprehension, this strategy can be adapted to suit your level. By the end of this video, you will have a clear understanding of how this approach works and how to make it a regular part of your learning practice. We will show you how to choose the right materials, practice effectively, and gradually build your confidence in listening and understanding English. So, if you are ready to take your English skills to the next level, stay tuned and let's dive into the world of combining listening and reading. This method can transform the way you learn English and make your journey faster, more enjoyable, and much more effective. When it comes to learning a new language, one of the biggest challenges learners face is developing strong listening skills. Listening is not just about hearing words, it's about understanding the meaning behind them, recognizing patterns, and being able to respond naturally in real conversations. This is where the strategy of combining listening and reading comes in. By engaging both your auditory and visual senses at the same time, you can accelerate your learning process and achieve a much deeper understanding of the language. Let's take a detailed look at the key benefits of this approach. 1. Improved vocabulary. One of the most immediate and noticeable benefits of combining listening and reading is an increase in your vocabulary. When you hear a word and simultaneously see it written, your brain forms stronger connections between the sound, meaning, and spelling of the word. This multisensory exposure makes it easier to remember new words and use them correctly in different contexts. For example, consider the word incredible. Hearing it pronounced while reading it allows you to internalize its correct pronunciation and understand the situations in which it can be used. Over time, you begin to recognize this word in conversations, podcasts, or videos, which makes it a permanent part of your active vocabulary. This strategy also exposes you to collocations, idiomatic expressions, and phrases rather than isolated words. Instead of just learning the word take, you might see and hear take a break, take responsibility, or take advantage of. By learning these phrases in context, you gain a much deeper understanding of how the language works naturally. Furthermore, combining listening and reading helps with spelling retention. Often, learners might know how to say a word but struggle to write it correctly. By reading while listening, you reinforce the visual form of the word in your memory, which improves both your reading and writing skills. 2. Enhanced comprehension. Another significant benefit of this strategy is enhanced comprehension. Listening alone can be overwhelming, especially when native speakers talk quickly or use unfamiliar vocabulary. By following along with written text, you can better understand what is being said. Your brain can match spoken words to their written forms, making it easier to grasp meaning and context. This is particularly helpful in understanding complex sentences or fast-paced dialogues. For example, when listening to a podcast or watching a video, some words may be missed or misheard. Reading the transcript simultaneously ensures that you do not lose the overall meaning and allows you to focus on parts that are difficult to understand. Over time, this repeated exposure helps train your brain to recognize words and phrases quickly, even without the text. This means that eventually, you will be able to comprehend spoken English more naturally and accurately, which is essential for conversations, academic learning, or professional communication. 3. Improved pronunciation and intonation. Listening and reading together is also extremely effective for improving your pronunciation. When you hear how a word or sentence is spoken while seeing its written form, you can imitate the correct sounds, rhythm, and stress patterns. This helps you speak more naturally and confidently. For instance, English has many words with silent letters, irregular pronunciations, or difficult vowel combinations. Seeing the word while hearing it allows you to understand these subtleties better. Words like through, enough, or night can be tricky for learners. By practicing listening and reading simultaneously, you internalize the correct pronunciation and reduce the chances of making mistakes. Intonation, stress, and rhythm are equally important. English is a stress-timed language, meaning that certain syllables and words are emphasized while others are shortened or unstressed. Listening alone might make it difficult to notice these patterns, but reading along while listening allows you to associate punctuation and sentence structure with intonation. Over time, you will naturally develop a more native-like rhythm when speaking. 4. Reinforced grammar and sentence structure. Combining listening and reading also strengthens your understanding of grammar and sentence structures. Grammar is not just about rules you memorize. It is about recognizing patterns in real language use. When you read and listen at the same time, you start noticing how sentences are constructed. You can see how tenses, prepositions, conjunctions, and sentence patterns are used in context. For example, noticing sentences like, "I have been studying English for 3 years," while hearing them helps you understand the present perfect continuous tense in a meaningful way rather than just as a rule in a textbook. Repeated exposure to grammatically correct sentences helps you internalize patterns and use them automatically in your own speaking and writing. Over time, this improves fluency because you start forming sentences correctly without consciously thinking about grammar rules. 5. Increased listening confidence. Many learners feel nervous when listening to native speakers because they cannot catch every word or phrase. Combining listening and reading helps reduce this anxiety. By following along with written text, you can understand the conversation fully, even if you miss some words when listening alone. This practice gradually builds confidence. You start recognizing common vocabulary, sentence structures, and idiomatic expressions in real time. As your brain becomes accustomed to linking spoken words with meaning, you will feel more prepared and less intimidated in real-life conversations. Confidence is key in language learning because it encourages you to practice speaking, participate in discussions, and engage with authentic content without fear of mistakes. 6. Adaptable for all levels. Another advantage of this strategy is its versatility. Beginners can start with simple texts and audio, such as children's stories, graded readers, or short dialogues. Intermediate learners can use podcasts, news articles, or short videos. Advanced learners can practice with TED Talks, audiobooks, or academic lectures. The strategy scales with your ability. As your listening comprehension improves, you can gradually challenge yourself with faster speech, complex vocabulary, or more abstract topics, while still benefiting from reading along. This adaptability makes it suitable for all learners, regardless of proficiency level. 7. Supports long-term language retention. Language learning is most effective when it engages multiple senses and reinforces information in memory. Combining listening and reading does exactly that. You are not just hearing the language once, you are connecting sound, meaning, and visual form. Research in language acquisition suggests that multisensory learning strengthens memory pathways, which leads to long-term retention of vocabulary, phrases, and structures. When you encounter the same words in conversations, articles, or media, they are easier to recall because your brain has already stored them in multiple ways. 8. Real-life application. Finally, this strategy is highly practical and prepares you for real-life communication. English is everywhere in movies, podcasts, news, conversations, and online content. By practicing listening and reading together, you become more adept at understanding spoken English in context. For example, when watching a video with subtitles or listening to a podcast transcript, you learn how words and phrases are used naturally. Later, when these words appear in conversations or professional settings, you recognize them instantly and respond appropriately. Conclusion. In summary, the strategy of combining listening and reading provides numerous benefits for English learners. Improved vocabulary through multisensory exposure. Enhanced comprehension by connecting spoken words with written forms. Better pronunciation and intonation through imitation and rhythm practice. Reinforced grammar and sentence structures via repeated exposure. Increased listening confidence for real-life communication. Adaptable for all levels, from beginner to advanced learners. Supports long-term language retention through multisensory learning. Prepares learners for real-life application in conversations, media, and professional contexts. By incorporating this strategy into your daily practice, you can accelerate your progress, make learning more enjoyable, and achieve a deeper, more lasting understanding of the English language. The key is consistency. Start small, practice regularly, and gradually challenge yourself with more complex materials. Over time, you will notice a significant improvement in your listening skills, comprehension, and overall fluency. The first tip is to start with materials that are suitable for your level. If you are a beginner, it's important to avoid overly complicated content that might overwhelm you or cause frustration. Beginners can start with children's books or graded readers. These books are designed for language learners and usually feature simple vocabulary, clear sentence structures, and engaging stories. Beginner-friendly podcasts. Many language learning apps offer podcasts specifically for beginners, often with transcripts provided. Short dialogues. Online resources provide short conversational dialogues that focus on specific topics or daily life situations. For intermediate and advanced learners, you can gradually move on to news articles with audio versions. Websites like BBC Learning English or Voice of America provide audio clips accompanied by written articles. Audiobooks with transcripts. Listening to a book while reading along allows you to experience natural speech and sentence structures. TED Talks or YouTube videos. Advanced learners can follow along with transcripts or subtitles, exposing themselves to formal and informal English. Choosing the right materials is crucial because it ensures that your practice is effective and enjoyable. When the content is too difficult, it can be discouraging and make it harder to retain information. Start simple and gradually increase difficulty as your skills improve. 2. Start with short audio clips. Another effective tip is to begin with short audio clips. Long recordings can be overwhelming, especially for beginners. Short clips have several advantages. They allow you to focus on understanding specific vocabulary and expressions. You can listen multiple times without feeling tired or distracted. They make it easier to repeat, practice, and review small sections before moving on. Short clips could include daily dialogues such as greetings, ordering food, or asking for directions. Short podcast episodes, usually 2 to 5 minutes in length. Audio exercises from language learning apps. By starting small, you can build confidence and maintain motivation, which is essential for consistent learning. As your listening skills improve, you can gradually move on to longer recordings and more complex topics. 3. Listen and repeat. Shadowing. One of the most powerful techniques for improving pronunciation and listening comprehension is listening and repeating, also known as shadowing. Shadowing involves listening to spoken English and trying to imitate the speaker exactly. Here's how to practice effectively. Listen carefully, focus on the pronunciation, intonation, rhythm, and stress patterns of the speaker. Repeat immediately, try to mimic the sounds as closely as possible while looking at the text. Pay attention to difficult words or phrases, pause and replay if necessary. Practice in small sections, break the audio into sentences or short phrases, especially for beginners. Gradually increase speed. Once you can follow a slow audio comfortably, move on to faster recordings. Shadowing not only improves pronunciation but also helps internalize natural intonation, stress, and rhythm, making your spoken English sound more fluent. Over time, your brain will start recognizing patterns in speech, making listening easier even without reading. 4. Follow along with written texts. Reading along while listening is at the core of this strategy. Here are some tips for effective practice. Highlight or underline new words. While reading, mark unfamiliar words or expressions and write them down in a notebook. Later, look up their meanings and practice them in context. Break down complex sentences. For sentences that are difficult to understand, analyze their structure. Identify the subject, verb, object, and any phrases to understand the grammar in context. Focus on pronunciation while reading. Use the text to connect spoken sounds with their written forms. This will help you recognize tricky words or silent letters. Repeat sections multiple times, don't rush. Listening and reading multiple times strengthens your memory and comprehension. Following along with text is particularly useful for catching words that might be missed when listening alone. It also allows learners to review and reinforce vocabulary and grammar patterns more efficiently. 5. Take notes and summarize. Another practical tip is to take notes while listening and reading. This helps reinforce learning and improves both comprehension and retention. Here's how you can do it. Write down new words, phrases, and idioms along with their meanings. Note the main idea or key points of the audio segment. Summarize short dialogues or stories in your own words. Taking notes is beneficial because it forces you to actively process the language, rather than passively listening. It also creates a useful resource for later review. Reviewing your notes periodically helps strengthen long-term retention of vocabulary, grammar, and sentence structures. 6. Use language learning apps. Many apps are specifically designed to help learners combine listening and reading. Some advantages of using apps include structured lessons. Apps often provide guided exercises that integrate audio and text. Interactive features. Exercises may include multiple choice questions, fill in the blanks, or speaking practice. Progress tracking. Apps allow you to monitor your improvement over time. Popular apps for this approach include Duolingo, LingQ, Fluent, and BBC Learning English. By using apps, you can practice consistently and systematically, which is key to mastering a language. 7. Repeat and review regularly. Consistency is crucial for learning any skill, including listening. To get the most benefit from combining listening and reading, practice daily, even for just 10 to 20 minutes. Review previously learned materials to reinforce vocabulary and grammar. Listen multiple times to the same audio until you can understand it fully without reading. Regular review ensures that what you learn is stored in long-term memory and can be recalled easily when needed. It also helps you notice patterns and improvements over time, which is motivating and encouraging. 8. Gradually increase difficulty. Once you feel comfortable with simple materials and short clips, it's time to challenge yourself. Increasing difficulty gradually prevents stagnation and helps you progress continuously. Ways to increase difficulty include moving from short dialogues to longer conversations, interviews, or podcasts. Choosing materials with more complex vocabulary, idiomatic expressions, or formal language. Listening to faster speech or different accents. Practicing with real-world materials, such as news reports, audiobooks, or TV shows. Gradual progression ensures that your learning is effective, sustainable, and enjoyable, rather than overwhelming. 9. Combine listening and reading with speaking. To maximize the benefits of this strategy, try to speak along while reading and listening. This helps connect listening comprehension with active language production. Repeat phrases out loud after the speaker. Try summarizing what you heard in your own words. Record yourself and compare with the original audio to check pronunciation and intonation. Speaking while listening and reading strengthens your listening, reading, and speaking skills simultaneously, making your English more fluent and natural. 10. Be patient and stay motivated. Finally, remember that learning a language is a gradual process. Improvements in listening and comprehension may take time, but the key is consistent practice and patience. Start small and celebrate progress, no matter how minor it seems. Focus on understanding meaning rather than perfection. Set realistic goals, such as learning a certain number of new words or understanding a short dialogue fully. By staying motivated and practicing consistently, you will notice gradual but steady improvement. Over time, combining listening and reading will make understanding native speakers much easier and more enjoyable. Conclusion. To sum up, here are the key practical tips for combining listening and reading effectively. Choose simple and appropriate materials that match your level. Start with short audio clips to build confidence. Listen and repeat, shadowing, to improve pronunciation and rhythm. Follow along with written texts to reinforce vocabulary and comprehension. Take notes and summarize to actively process language. Use language learning apps for structured practice. Repeat and review regularly to strengthen long-term retention. Gradually increase difficulty to challenge yourself. Combine listening and reading with speaking to enhance fluency. Be patient and stay motivated for long-term success. By applying these tips consistently, you can transform your English listening skills and become more confident in understanding spoken English. Remember, the combination of listening and reading engages your brain in multiple ways, making learning more effective, enjoyable, and lasting. Start today, follow these tips, and watch your listening comprehension improve dramatically over time. To wrap up, the strategy of combining listening and reading is a highly effective and versatile method for improving your English listening skills. Throughout this video, we have explored the numerous benefits of this approach, from expanding your vocabulary and enhancing comprehension to improving pronunciation, intonation, and understanding of grammar and sentence structures. By engaging both your auditory and visual senses, you are training your brain to recognize words and phrases more naturally and accurately, which ultimately makes listening to native speakers easier and more enjoyable. One of the most important takeaways is that consistency is key. Improvement doesn't happen overnight, but by practicing regularly even for just 10 to 20 minutes a day you will gradually notice significant progress. Start with materials that match your level, such as children's books, beginner-friendly podcasts, or short dialogues, and then gradually move on to more complex content like audiobooks, news articles, or TED Talks. Remember to listen actively, follow along with the written text, repeat and imitate what you hear, and take notes to reinforce what you've learned. Equally important is maintaining patience and motivation. Language learning is a journey, and it's normal to encounter challenges along the way. Celebrate small victories, such as understanding a sentence you previously couldn't or correctly pronouncing a tricky word. Over time, these small successes add up, building your confidence and helping you become more fluent. Finally, I encourage you to combine listening and reading with speaking practice whenever possible. Shadowing audio, summarizing content in your own words, and practicing aloud can strengthen your speaking skills while reinforcing listening comprehension. By incorporating these strategies into your daily routine, you will create a solid foundation for long-term success in English. So, keep practicing, stay consistent, and enjoy the process of learning. With patience and persistence, your listening skills will improve faster than you expect, and you'll gain greater confidence in understanding and communicating in English.